Hello all, and welcome back to the Smokey scale. Today I'll be reviewing the latest album from musician Tyler the Creator titled Chromakopia, which is his 8th studio album that was released in October 2024. This is the final episode of the Smokey scale for the year 2024, and the season will continue next year in the spring. So without further ado, let's get into the review. The first track is titled Saint Chroma and features Daniel Caesar. Personally, this track doesn't do much for me, but I think it's a neat setup track for the album as a whole. The production isn't as triumphant as I'd usually expect either, but it does a fine job. In terms of replayability, I don't come back to the track at all. Saint Chroma gets a 6 out of 10. The second track is titled Ratata, and this is one of my favorite tracks off the whole album. The production is super hard, and Tyler goes off with some good lines like the biggest out the city after Kenny, that's a fact now, which is in reference to Kendrick Lamar and him being the new top dog from his city. I come back to this track a lot as well, as it's also very energetic. Ratata gets a 9 out of 10. The third track is Noid, and while I think it's one of the more experimental songs on the album, it didn't really stick with me at all, even though I think lyrically it's very meaningful in terms of paranoia and being famous. I'd give Noid a 5 out of 10. The fourth track is Darling I, which might be my top favorite song from the entire album, but I'm still not sure on that. If there's one thing Tyler's going to crush at, it's R&B styled cuts with pretty production choices and choosing who should shine vocally for features. And this track is nothing less than basically perfect. I think Tizo does a wonderful job at the bridge and end, and really brings the song further together. I don't really agree with the forever is too long line in terms of relationships, but I also understand wanting to find the perfect one, which seems to be a near impossible feat. I'd give Darling I a 9.5 out of 10. The fifth track is Hey Jane, one of the very serious songs on the album, where he talks about having to deal with pregnancy and an abortion, as he also talks from the perspective of the girl who he had this situation with. The production is simple, but it works for the sort of storytelling from Tyler like in most of his previous albums, with songs like Manifesto, but because of the serious topic, I don't really see myself coming back to this song. Overall, I'd give Hey Jane an 8 out of 10. The sixth track is I Killed You, and to be honest, I don't really think it needs to exist on the album, as it doesn't really add much, and seems to be more of a filler addition to the previous and next track. I think the production is still really great, but I Killed You gets a 6 out of 10. The seventh track is Judge Judy. It's a song where he talks about how he had fun with this girl, but she ended up ghosting him, and he ended up finding out she passed away due to cancer or another illness. With additional vocals from Childish Gambino, this track is sad, and once again has pretty production, even if I think the singing is a bit awkward. Judge Judy gets a 7 out of 10. The eighth track is Sticky featuring Glorilla, Sexy Red, and Lil Wayne. This track will be hard depending on what kind of person you are. Personally, I found it pretty fun, and the features caught me completely off guard on first listen. It doesn't amount to much at all, but that's fine. Sticky gets an 8 out of 10. The ninth track is Take Your Mask Off featuring Daniel Caesar, once again, as well as LaToya Williams. This might actually be my favorite song off the album, even though I already said that before. It's funny how people on release were immediately completely hating this album, and I could probably imagine why with songs like this that make them actually think about themselves. I agree with these songs' lyrics a lot in the fact that people should quit acting hard or fake and just be themselves. The production is also wonderful and has some beautiful synth and piano moments all throughout. Take Your Mask Off gets a 10 out of 10. The 10th track is Tomorrow, where he talks about getting older and thinks about various things like having children. This track is also pretty good, but I don't see myself coming back to this track at all either. The production on here is some of the best on the album though, and I wish we'd hear more guitar on Tyler tracks, because I feel like we've been hearing just a little too much synth and strings and piano. Tomorrow gets an 8 out of 10. The 11th track is Thought I Was Dead featuring Schoolboy Q and Santa Gold. Another very hard track with a great Schoolboy feature and a Tyler verse where he talks about people going after his past controversies and basically says to screw off. The production is hard, rapping is hard, lyrics are hard, I'm hard. Thought I Was Dead gets a 9 out of 10. The The 12th track is Like Him featuring Lola Young, a track where he talks about his father being absent and his mother talking about it as well, where she says at the end that it's her fault because she was young and his father always wanted to be there. The song is short and sweet and even features a single ad-lib from Baby Keem towards the end. I do really like this track, and once again, the production is obviously amazing and Lola Young's singing is simply awe-striking. Like Him gets a 9 out of 10. The 13th track is Balloon featuring Doechii. This track also doesn't amount to anything much, but for a second to last track, I think it's very fitting and it's also very fun and features production from Tyler that is different from what we usually get, which sounds very bouncy and features a sample that you might recognize if you listen to Sicko Mode by Travis Scott. Doechii also delivers a good feature verse and adds a lot to the song. Balloon gets a 7 out of 10. The 14th and final track is I Hope You Find Your Way Home, which is a perfect outro to this album. Lyrically, it's just a retrospect into the previous songs of the album, however the production is also once again and features a very infectious pixel-like synth. I Hope You Find Your Way Home gets an 8 out of 10. That's all the tracks of the album, so let's see the verdict. Chromakopia by Tyler the Creator is an interesting addition to his discography, as it's very much more chilled out than his previous 3 albums. However, it also accomplishes at letting Tyler flesh out some of his thoughts on his actual life and lets him be honest. Production on this thing is once again very creative and introduces some variety on the table with songs like Tomorrow and Balloon, while also reintroducing and perfecting the R&B-esque production we've had on songs like Darling I. Vocals, while they could be a bit awkward at times with his imperfect singing, were mostly perfect, especially on songs like I Thought I Was Dead. And the features on this album all worked, which was a small issue with Call Me If You Get Lost with some odd feature choices like 42 Dugg on Lemonhead. This album could very well act as his final album, even though I don't see that happening, and I'd be happy to get another album from his in the next 2 to 3 years as well. But for the next one, I think I want to see something completely different and experimental. Maybe even mashing with a different genre he hasn't already done so with. Anyways, Chromakopia is a great addition to his discography, and I can't wait to see what the future holds. I give Chromakopia an 80% on the Smokey scale. If you're wanting to see some of my other reviews or videos, a couple should pop up on screen right now. Thanks for watching, and see you next year.